welcome you to the special teaching on the three principal aspects of the path by Venerable former Abbot Khensur Jangchup Choeden. And before we begin, please allow me to read out a short biography of our teacher. Former Abbot Venerable Khensur Jangchup Choeden joined Gandhi Shazi Monastic College in Mangot, Karnataka, and embarked on an extensive course of traditional Buddhist education and was awarded the Geshe Dharma degree. Later he joined the Gurdwara Tantric University and earned degree of Geshe Dharma. He travels extensively to all over the world to teach Dharma on request. In 2009, His Holiness the Dalai Lama appointed him the abbot of Gandhi Shazi Monastic College, his alma mater. Since then, he leads the institute until this year, following his appointment as the secretary of Gandhi Chibokang and executive director of Gelug International Foundation in 2017. He relinquished the abbotship and begins to lead the international community of Gelug first. We are very honored to have Venerable Khensur Jangchup Choeden here to teach us. Even though his schedule is very hectic and he has taken out time to teach us, so we are very honored with that. And please welcome him.
Okay, good evening, everybody gathering here today. It's a great pleasure for me to be back to Tibet House. I do remember coming here, I think a year or more ago for some kind of conference and some other activities. So today, as usual, what we do as kind of a traditional, following the tradition, what we do is first we do kind of chant these few prayers. And chanting of these prayers are really important, and most of these prayers are kind of praising the greatness of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and with recalling the greatness of Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, the great practitioners of past, we try to kind of inspire ourselves and walk that path. So that is the purpose that can be kind of achieved through doing the prayer recitations. So we begin with the prayer recitation from page number 12. The sutra remembering the three jewels. So we are reciting in English, and I do hope you don't have any problem with that. Okay? If you have any problem with that, you may feel free to chant in any other language you like. But make sure that you don't disturb the mass, okay? Thank you very much. So, we begin with that, okay? Page number 12. Please go to page number 12 in this new book. I begin and you follow me, okay? And we are chanting together. Homage to the Omniscient One, purified and consummate, victorious, virtuous and transcendent, thus gone for destroying entirely perfect Buddha, full of wisdom, the blissfully proceeding, the knower of the world's charioteer and subduer of being, the unsurpassable and teacher of the gods and man, such as Buddha, victorious and transcendent. He who is thus gone exemplifies the merit which is his cause. In him no root of virtue is ever borne away. Through his manifold patience, he is excellently beautiful. He is the treasure ground of merit, adorned with the tokens of enlightenment. He is graced with the flowers of the marks of the Buddhahood. All he does is timely and opportune, and nothing inharmonious mars the sights of him. True joy indeed he gives to those who through the brilliance of his wisdom, he is unconfounded, and against his power there is no victory. He is the teacher of all living beings, the father of all bodhisattvas, the king of all supreme ones. He is a guide for those who journey to the city beyond affliction. His wisdom is unbounded, his assurance is beyond imagination, his speech is together pure, well-tuned and sweet to hear. Gazing on him, one is never sated. His body is beyond compare. By the world of desire, he is unsustained and terminated. He is not mingled with the formless. He is altogether free from misery and from the aggregates. He is utterly and altogether liberated. The elements have no fold on him. He has mastery over the sense powers. All his bonds are completely severed, and from all pains he is perfectly, totally released. No cravings does he have. He has passed beyond the stream. Perfect is his wisdom, and in the wisdom of the Buddhas past, present, and to come. He has made his dwellings in nirvana, where all suffering is transcended. He does not abide. His abode is on the summit of perfection, whence he perceives all living beings. Such are the sublime qualities that are the greatness of the Buddha, victorious, virtuous, and transcendent. The sacred doctrine is righteous in the outset, righteous in the middle, righteous in the end. Its meaning excellent in its words and syllables. Likewise, it is integral and unalloyed. It is all-sufficing, altogether pure and purifying. Well spoken is this Dharma by the victorious, virtuous, and transcendent. It is a perfect way of seeing and is devoid of flaws. It is perennial and leads us onward. To see this Dharma is to fulfill one's purpose. It produces in the wise the wisdom or distinguishing. The Dharma spoken by the victorious, virtuous, and transcendent is shown to be well-tempered to the instructions and to the needs of all. It drives one from samsara and causes one to go to perfect Buddhahood. It is free from contradiction, and in it all is summarized. It is to be relied upon totally. It is cutting of the root. The Sangha of the Mahayana comprises those who were well entered, wisely entered with a straightforwardness and aptitude. Right it is to join one's hands before them, the right to make prostrations. They are the glorious field of merit. They are the perfect recipients of gifts. They are the object of offering. Everywhere and always they are the objects worthy of all offerings. Okay, now we go to this page number 14, phrase to the Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay? To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be attained, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate. My offerings go to the When I, O supreme among us human, you are born on this earth, you placed out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies from supremely pure, wisdom ocean like gold milk, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, the winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the Tathagata I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtues that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, Sangha, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly, this is the teachings of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned thing as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeings, subdue the false, and delivered from the samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Okay, now after that, we go to the page number 37, okay? Okay, so you got the page number 37? Okay. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. Okay, now the 4 dharmas of Venerable Gampopa. We don't need to really go for that. So we say, go to the page number 38. You have number 4 in the beginning, yeah? Please bless me that my mind stream overflows with the precious wisdom of non-duality, of bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mendelakum Niriyatayami. Okay. Okay. Now we recite the Heart Sutra, okay? It is at page number. Page number is 29. So you go to the page number 29. Okay. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Buddha was dwelling on mass of virtuous mountain in Rajagriha, together with the great community of monks and the great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Buddha was absorbed in concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound illumination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound illumination of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any child of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom train? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharadati Putra. Shariputra, any daughter or son of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this. Correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are empty, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinctions of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattva rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom. The mind without obscuration and thus without fear, having completely passed beyond error. They reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayatha gade gade para gade para sangade bodhi soha. Shari Putra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Buddha rose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas will rejoice. The Buddha, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of God, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised by that spoken by the Buddha. Okay. Now we recite this. Okay. Teyatha om gate gate para sangate bodhi soha. By the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be non-existent, may they be pacified. May all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and conditions harmful to the Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma. May auspiciousness and perfect happiness pervade this place now. Okay. Okay. So the prayer recitations at the beginning of the session is over. So now you recite with me these verses of transforming the motive to cultivate a perfect motive. Actually, I should explain the motive in detail since the time constraint is there. So I should say that the best motive is to have kind of some sort of kindness and compassion cultivated in oneself. If we cannot go to the kind of highest level of bodhicitta or kind of great compassion and those things, at least have some kind of a sense of caring to others. Everyone cares to oneself. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have anything special in it. So we need to go beyond that. We need to move beyond that. And that can be done only through caring for the others. So there begins the Dhamma kind of motive. And then, if possible, we should look beyond this life. Everyone likes to be rich and kind of successful in this life. There is nothing special in that. Even the kind of worst human being living in this world will like that. So there is nothing special and nothing kind of, how to say, admirable in that. So we should try to look beyond that. So we should cherish and work towards a life beyond the death. If we do that, then the great masters of past used to say that, how do you kind of demarcate a mundane kind of mentality and then spiritual mentality? The demarcation is, if someone is doing something towards benefiting the life after the death, then that means the person is driven by a spiritual mentality, a higher level of kind of motive. So if, as long as activities and our kind of purpose is just limited up to this life's benefit, then it's like a mundane motive. So we need to understand that. So with such an understanding, try to cultivate a right motive, try to, at least at a fabricated level, kind of at that moment, try to kind of have some kind of feeling deeply in yourself. This is really important to have it. And it kind of transforms entire engagement. So, while we do the chanting, you should try to do that. I also need to try to do that. Okay? Sangye Choeden Soke Chonan La Chanchu Pardo Dani Gyatsu Che Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonan Dola Benjire Sangye Lubara Sangye Choeden Soge Chonan La Jangchup Choeden Agi Chöshe Gibe Chonan Lola Benjire Sangye Sangye Choeden Soge Chonan La Jangchup Choeden Agi Chöshe Gibe Chonan Lola Benjire Sangye 라동안 라면이다 면지 오고당 전에 저기 저는 게 되죠. 상에서 뭐라도 제외돼 교와 대배지가 담배 준 얘기는 제 신이들이 시 대외까지 있는 저들이 와서 좀 저도 되는 거 봐야 되더라고요. 이제는 주신 온무단에 걸 통해 두배 승리기 Okay. Now the great Tsongkhapa says that a suitable human birth, or sometimes we also use the term a magnificent human birth, is very rare. It's as rare as a kind of a wish-fulfilling jewel. And then, due to some kind of sheer coincidental luck, we happen to achieve such a kind of a suitable human birth in this life, and we shouldn't be wasting it. We shouldn't be wasting it means we shouldn't be kind of just spending our entire life in accumulating wealth, fame, and power in these things. All of these things will come to end when the life comes to cease. So we should be working to something that sustain, that may continue after the death. So for that, what to do? To train into the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma, to train one's own mind. So great Master Tsongkhapa says that we should kind of focus and stress on that part. So as great Master Tsongkhapa says, it's really important to train ourselves into something really meaningful and sustaining in a long run. So to do that, what we need to do is train into the Dhamma. And to train into the Dhamma, it is really important to understand the Dhamma. What is the Dhamma? Without understanding the Dhamma, there is no way that we can train ourselves into the Dhamma. So I do believe that in today's gathering, since it's a Friday evening gathering, there are a lot of brothers and sisters who are gathering here, who has a lot of kind of teachings received in past. And at the same time, I do believe there are some new brothers and sisters gathering who may never have attended the teachings in past. So it's a big challenge for a person, a teacher like me, to kind of cover everyone in one session of teaching. It's a huge challenge, but somehow I hope I may be able to do something kind of good to all. So the topic of today's teaching is the three principal aspects of the path. The text itself is a very, very important text. In a way, it's a very, very concise text, a very compact and concise text. But it encompasses or summarizes the entire teachings of the Buddha. In general, as you have seen in the recitations, that it says that there are 84,000 of kind of variations of the teachings of the Buddha. And it is possible to summarize all these teachings and all these messages of the Buddha in certain kind of all in this kind of short text. There is only 14 paragraphs or 14 verses. In these 14 verses, entire kind of teachings of the Buddha are summarized. So it's really important to understand that. The greatness of the text itself. And the greatness of the composer is, it was composed by the great Master Tsongkhapa. Kind of indigenous Tibetan scholar saint who was born in middle of 14th century and had kind of taught Dharma in late 14th century and in the early 15th century. And due to his kind of outstanding scholarly explanation of the teachings of the Buddha, he ended up in establishing a new sect in Tibetan Buddhism, which ended up in becoming a sect which was followed by the majority of Tibetan people, and not just in Tibet, in many parts of China, in Mongolia, and lately in this century, it has spread into Europe and America and even up to the South America and many other countries. So the text was composed by such a kind of greatly celebrated master. He was not just a scholar, a great practitioner himself, a highly realized practitioner. So this text is a very valuable text. So it summarizes, as I told you earlier, entire teachings of the Buddha in 3 points: the renunciation, bodhicitta, and the wisdom of emptiness. So renunciation is a very basic kind of a practice required in all the 3 paths: paths of Shravaka, paths of Pratyek Buddhas, path of Bodhisattvas. So it's very, very kind of a common practice and essence of the Buddha's teaching. And then when it comes to the Bodhisattva practice, without the core practice of bodhicitta, there is no way to train oneself into the Bodhisattva's practices and the path. So it summarizes the entire kind of training and the kind of practices of the Bodhisattvas. Then the wisdom of the emptiness is a universal kind of tool and kind of knowledge required in any path. Even if someone is training into the Shravaka path or Pratyek Buddha path or in the kind of Bodhisattva path, everyone requires that. Without the knowledge of emptiness, without the wisdom of emptiness, there is no way that anyone can kind of uproot the kind of roots of afflictions, trouble-making emotions. So from that angle, that is a very important point. So these most important points are addressed in these kind of few stanzas in a very, very eloquent, in a very, very kind of precise way. So from that point of view, it's very important text. So in general, there are kind of various ways of teaching this text. One can kind of purely teach this text as a kind of academic subject matter. But then teaching this text as an academic subject matter won't really help that much to kind of give a kind of a sense of feeling. So another way of teaching is combining it with the lumbering instructions, which is a very common kind of style that was employed by the previous masters. When it comes to the kind of practices in Guru tradition, everything is tried to put according to the kind of this framework that is presented in great London treaties. So most of our masters also do the same thing with this text. So from that point of view, I have a clear preference to do it in that way. Maybe that may not be appealing to some of you, but I don't think it does really matter, because most important part is to application of the instructions, not just to be the information bank. Being an information bank will never get us anywhere. So it's really important to understand that, the purpose of the teachings. So since the time is short, first I would like to go out with the kind of reading. The text, I think you also have this, in this book you will find a version of translation. In page number 73. You can go to the page number 73. There is a version of translation here, and I do have two versions of translation here, so I would like to show the differences in kind of translation. This is very important. Like most of the time when I'm teaching in English or any other language, I have a clear preference to do this kind of comparative presentation of in between the translations. The original work was written in Tibetan, so there won't be any kind of conflicting verses coming out, or conflicting kind of a presentation, or conflicting of course interpretation could be possible. But when it is translated into English, what we have noted in all these years is that every translator has peculiar kind of a preference to use certain kind of these terms. So with that kind of attitude, they translate the original verses from Tibetan language to English. When that happens, it kind of greatly changes the expression, and also in certain occasions the meaning itself. So from that point of view, I think many of you were quite well aware about this. When you are reading, try to study and learn Tibetan Buddhism through translation, you should not be kind of thinking like when you are reading one translation, this is the exact presentation of the idea that was presented in the original Tibetan work. It may not be like that. So, I think I should first read the Tibetan according to our thinking. It carries the blessings. Okay? 개외승도 군이 인구도 개세 담받는 나고 간데 털도는 주모테 지들면이 나게 해버자 강다 세변되는 마차시 대절 되어 저지 선거인 겨와기베 남마 이들 간데다 당에 이기 남다 니중에 세소이 된데 되어 시에 타면 세베 깜바 이경 유진 꾸인의 칭절 통하는 니중들 대전이가 세바 농매바 이르고 세디 낭시도 레데미 코르베 동에 양양스나 침면노시도 대달콤베 코르베 평소로 이면기지 섬에 미기시 예제군이 타바 돈일로 중내들 이중계가 나. So with this first verse, first line, now here different translation here. It could be quite interesting for you to listen to this. In one version of translation it says, homage to the most venerable teachers. This is translated by Geshe Thupten Jimba. And another version of the translation it says, I prostrate to my ennobling, impeccable lamas. This is translated by, what is his name? A German guy. Alexander Person. Yeah. And this one is translated by Geshe Dorje Damdul?
Yes.
Yeah. And it says, I bow down to the Venerable Lamas. So, expressions, there are different usage of terms and expressions. So it's something quite kind of clear to us. So another thing is, you see, here, normally what we do is, we kind of explain this first line with the Guru kind of devotion part of the kind of teachings, according to this framework of Lamrim. The Guru devotion is very important in a sense that you see, when you need a guide to guide you to somewhere where you have never been, you have to completely kind of rely upon that guide. But it is really important that the guide is qualified and experienced. If you end up in completely relying upon a guide who is not qualified, who is not experienced, then it could be dangerous. So for that reason, Lamrim has complete kind of thorough instruction on what kind of teacher you should be looking for, what qualities you should be looking for in a person who's you look for to guide you and you look for to kind of train you. So these are really important things. Those are needed to be understood. Unless it could be devastating. So it is like that. But nowadays, sometimes kind of this teachings on a Guru devotion is also misused. Misused by some kind of unqualified, untrained, unexperienced persons. And if they try to misuse this can be very easily misused. So from that angle too, it is really kind of important to be cautious before accepting someone as one's own spiritual guide. Be cautious, test, kind of study. And then once you are kind of quite, convinced and satisfied that this is a qualified and kind of a right person to guide me, then you can accept them as your guru. So this is a really important matter. So once you have accepted a guru, then definitely you have to maintain the pledges and the commitments intact and unbroken. For a mundane engagement to live a life together until only up to the death, there are so many kind of complex commitments. Just think about getting married. How many complex commitments are there? So this is a matter of life, many, many lifetimes. It goes beyond, all the way up to the Buddhahood. So it has to be much more complicated. So we need to understand it that way. So from that angle, it's really important to understand that. Nowadays, in these days, there are people who may claim that, it's not important to have a guru. There are plenty of books, you can just rely upon the books. But that is not the right way. As I told you, even to be a kind of a good lawyer, you cannot completely rely upon the books. Even to be a good doctor, you cannot completely rely upon the books. Even to be a good carpenter, you cannot completely rely upon the books. How can it be possible to completely rely upon the books and attain the Buddhahood? It is impossible. Simply impossible. So, you have to rely upon a living being who has learned those things, who has lived those values, and who has trained those values, and they have gained experience. But you cannot blame the system for if you come into contact with something wrong. After all, who are the responsible? You yourself. Every individual practitioner is the responsible person. So it's really important to understand this. From that angle, the instructions about the Guru devotion should be understood correctly. If you understand it correctly, then you will come to know the importance of it. When you understand it correctly and know the importance of it, then you can apply it in your life. Unless it may be it may appear like, an outdated concept. But it is not at all. So then, after that, the next two verses, our first verse is to pledge, commit the Tsongkhapa himself to write the text. Actually, this text was written on a request of one of his friends and one of his good disciple. But even if he was requested, but he need to have a pledge and commitment to write it, unless he won't be doing that. So that is the reason why he is pledging himself to and committing himself to accomplish this task. So he says that the essential points of all the scriptures of the conqueror, I should read in that way. The first verse, Thupten Jimba's translation says, I shall explain here to the best of my ability the essential points of all the scriptures of the conquerors, the path acclaimed by all excellent bodhisattvas, the gateway of the fortunate ones, aspiring for liberation. Now the same verse is translated by Berzin in this way, I shall try to explain to the best of my ability the essential meaning of all the scriptural pronouncements of the triumphant ones, the path praised by the triumphant holy offspring, the fording passages for the fortunate desiring liberation. And Geshe-la's translation here says that, okay, I have jumped the other way around. Where is that? 37? 73, okay. I have taken it other way around, 37. 73 becomes 37 to me. Yeah. As well as I will explain the essence of all the teachings of the conqueror, the path praised by the conqueror's children, the entrance for those who desire liberation. So, you see, the first line is actually, the first line here in English is always the final line in Tibetan. So it makes it order goes up and down. So the second line in English is the first line in Tibetan. It says that the essential points of all the scriptures of conqueror. What does it refer to? It refers to the renunciation. A serious and genuine willingness to liberate oneself from the samsaric existence, from the troublesome existence, from the stressful existence that we are living, that we are conditioned with. So it refers to the renunciation. And the second line, which is here third line, the path acclaimed by all excellent bodhisattvas, refers to the bodhicitta itself. The gateway of the fortunate ones aspiring for liberation, that refers to the wisdom of emptiness. So these 3 points I explain to the best of my ability, or like that kind of thing. So he commit himself to write the text and explain these things. According to the traditional explanation, they say if you don't commit yourself from the beginning to accomplish the task, it may be possible that you may leave it in the midst or in the half or somewhere else. So that is a kind of a motive to push you to accomplish the task. So this is done by this first verse, and then second verse is, now I'm going to do this kind of task. So then he invites the qualified and willing disciples to come forward and listen to this task, listen to this text, or read this text and study this text. So he's kind of inviting or calling those who are kind of suitable vessel to get the message. So there's a third, it's the second verse where it says that in the Geshe-la's translation, listen with a clear mind, you fortunate ones, who are not attached to the joys of cyclic existence, strive to make good use of leisure and opportunity, and direct your minds to the path that pleases the Buddha. And the two other explanation, a kind of a version of translation, those who are not attached to the joys of cyclic existence, who strive to make meaningful this life of leisure and opportunity, and who place their trust in the path that pleases the conquerors, O fortunate ones, listen with an open heart. So he's calling. These qualities are required to be a kind of a suitable vessel to listen to these teachings, and after that understand the teachings and then kind of apply those teachings in the life. These are the kind of conditions those are needed. So if we are looking forward to train ourselves into these points, we need to try to acquire these qualities in ourselves. Unless we may not be a kind of suitable vessel to receive these teachings. So this is something that we need to understand. So what kind of a qualification a student should have in order to train into these instructions. Then the third verse. Here he kind of emphasizes on the importance of the renunciation. Here he says that in the kind of translation, without pure renunciation and end to attraction for the pleasure of cyclic existence is unattainable. The craving for existence also binds beings, thus from the outset seek renunciation. And this version of translation here says, without pure renunciation there is no means to pacify the yearning for the joys and fruits of samsaric ocean. And as craving for existence chain us thoroughly, at first search for the true renunciation. So true renunciation is really important. As long as we feel comfortable in the present circumstances and in the present condition, we will never, have this willingness, have this yearning to go out of here. The moment we start feeling uncomfortable, then we will start thinking about how to get out of here. This is a very common understanding. So we need to understand the problematic nature, the harmful and disturbing nature of our own existence at this moment. So to understand that, we need to study the Buddha's teachings. Buddha taught us existence is suffering, life is suffering. When Buddha teaches us life is suffering, he doesn't mean that every one of us are kind of having intensive pain in our body or somewhere else. It doesn't mean that. It means that our life is conditioned by suffering. Even if we feel like comfortable in a certain moment, but suffering is destined to come back. As imbalances of the conditions happen, suffering will immediately arise. Pains will immediately arise. So life is conditioned by suffering. It is like that. As the modern kind of medical science says that cancer is in our body. It is just a matter of kind of it's kind of getting activated or not. So in the same way, suffering is in our nature. It is just a kind of matter of, at some circumstance, and under some circumstances, it becomes very, very obvious and visible. In other circumstances, it becomes less visible and less obvious. So we need to understand that. Driven by that, we need to generate a deep sense of willingness to liberate from this very existence what we are living. Unless we will never be able to generate the kind of renunciation. So this is what it is meant by the kind of third verse. As long as we feel comfortable and we feel happy and joyful in the present condition or in present circumstances and this situation, there is no way that we will be looking forward to get out of this. So, driven by such kind of a motive, how to train to cultivate this renunciation? Then we go through the next verse. Reverse attraction to this life by reflecting on how leisure and opportunity are difficult to find and how life is ephemeral and without span. Reverse attraction to future life by repeatedly thinking of the infallibility of karma and its effects and the miseries of the samsara. So here the verse number 4 is translated like this. By cultivating in mind that this human life is so hard to find, yet has no time to spare, preoccupations with this life will come to cease. By contemplating repeatedly the truth of karma and samsaric sufferings, preoccupations with next life will come to cease. So most of the time we have two different varieties of preoccupations. One is we are kind of, it's very common all over the world. We are all preoccupied with this life. Eating, drinking, kind of wearing, and kind of, with, in the Indian language, I believe majority of you are Indian, roti, kapda or makan. This is a very, very common thinking. But roti, kapda or makan is a kind of a basic need. Food, shelter, and clothing is basic need. But how many of us are satisfied with that? Even if we have food for 10 years, we won't be satisfied with that. We are looking for more than that. Even if we have clothing for another next 10 years to wear, we won't be satisfied with that. Even if we have kind of a good shelter, which may protect us from all the other external kind of conditions for another 10 to 20 years, we may be not satisfied with that. We may be looking for more. And it is very common that many rich people like to have kind of houses in every different cities. So that shows that we are so deeply delved into the kind of enjoyment of this life. As long as we are bound to these enjoyments of this life, there is no way that we can reverse the interest and then look for some kind of other achievement. So that is the reason it says that preoccupations of this life keeps us bounded. The moment we get rid of the preoccupations of this life, we get little liberation. And that will help us to think about the life after the death. And then what happens? There is another preoccupation, life after the death. After life after the death, it could be very, very dangerous to fall into the hell. It could be very, very dangerous to be born as a kind of animal being. So I should strive to kind of secure living or secure birth as a kind of in a higher realm. That is another level of preoccupations. And that can only be get rid of when we do a deep contemplation based on a kind of deeper understanding of karma and its result, how it functions. And then all the kind of greater and kind of more subtle variety of kind of those sufferings and conditions, then we will never get attached to that kind of achievement in future life. We will look beyond that to get rid of entire kind of existence, which is referred to as a samsara. But in a common usage of the term samsara, there is a kind of lot of misunderstanding. Some people will look at explain the samsara as a kind of you say this householder's life. Some people will kind of explain samsara as something else. But according to Buddhist scripture, samsara means entire existence which is conditioned by the karmas and afflictive emotions. As long as our birth is conditioned by afflictive emotions and the karma, that is samsara. So we need to get rid of that. We need to get out of that. And that is only possible if we train well into the Dharma. So when we train in that way, then preoccupations for the future birth after the death, will come to cease. When we don't have any preoccupations with this life and the future life after the death, then that will lead us to kind of seek liberation. A real, genuine sense of willingness to attain the liberation, a freedom from, the conditioned existence. Then we will have the kind of renunciation. Renunciation doesn't mean something to give up. It means something to seek a higher benefit with giving away those minor and minute kind of enjoyments. So we have to understand it that way. Unless people keep explaining the renunciation in a very, 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 very negative way. Then the next verse is the verse number 5. Contemplating thus, when for an instant you do not admire the splendors of cyclic existence and remain intent on liberation day and night, renunciation is born in you then. So, as you habituate in this way, and when not even an instant of admiration arises for the prosperities of cyclic existence, and when the thought aspiring for liberation arises day and night, at this point true renunciation is arising. So, when we contemplate constantly in that way, then we will have the true renunciation arising. When the true renunciation arises, what happens? Any kind of mundane attainment or mundane achievement have no attraction at all to that kind of person. In general, what happens? When a young lady sees a kind of attractive Bollywood kind of an actress, they may feel like, oh, how wonderful it could be if I become like that. So a renunciate never have that kind of thinking. Because that kind of attraction is a kind of conditioned and is destined to cease. It is just a matter of, how long these conditions will support. The moment conditions perish, the attraction is gone out. And in the same way, like if you see a billionaire, a common kind of a businessman may get attracted, deeply attracted. Oh, how wonderful it could be if I become like him, a billionaire. with a lot of kind of plenty of wealth in my kind of hand. But for a real renunciate, there is no attraction in that. So, even if the power for a kind of normal politician, it could be very attractive to see a person like the president and the prime minister and these kind of things. Maybe for them, they possess absolute power in their hand. But for a renunciate, there's nothing absolute power, nothing like that. It is just a conditioned thing, and it may dismantle any moment. So it needed to be understood in that way. If we understand the renunciation in that way, then we will come to really kind of striving to look forward that direction. So up to this point, we have explained the kind of first point, the renunciation. Then we go to the next point. 미중티 남다 숨기 있으면은 남의 창조 깊은도 대외 교류 미디어 로데는 게 창조 생초 슈다 초시 jungi dogal legi chimo tambyoda danzin cha tawe musu mari me ma che puine mume siver keshin kevar dungi sumgi gyunche me ba nega dender de man samju sumji nyenso sencho kero. Now these three verses explain about the importance of the bodhicitta and how to cultivate it. The instruction. So here comes in the picture the sixth verse. Renunciation is not tempered by the pure mind of bodhicitta, however, does not bring forth the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore, the wise ones generate the excellent mind of bodhicitta. So, it explains the importance and the kind of exceptional need and value of the bodhicitta. If we had the kind of a renunciation, but we never had the bodhicitta, then we will never be able to kind of attain the Buddhahood. Bodhicitta is a wish to attain the Buddhahood, attain all the great qualities of the Buddha. Unless we have that wish, we have that yearning, we will never strive towards that direction. Like if someone never had kind of a wish and a yearning to earn money or become a millionaire, they will never become a millionaire. So that yearning and that kind of desire is needed. Or in the other words, we use the term aspiration is required. But I don't mean that becoming a millionaire is very good. It is an example. In a kind of a materialistic society, becoming a millionaire is an achievement. Becoming a billionaire is a bigger achievement. So to have that achievement, you have to have that wish. We will never find anyone who doesn't have that wish to become a millionaire, kind of accidentally become a millionaire. It is extremely rare, almost none. We find it. So, becoming the Buddhahood, I used to tell my friends, there is no kind of spiritual jackpot that you can expect and then become Buddha. You have to accumulate the kind of these good qualities, accumulate the kind of these realizations, and then gradually you have to move towards that direction, to that goal. So the point here is, without that wish, the bodhicitta, there is no way that we will start walking towards that direction. So from that point of view, even if someone has very strong and kind of powerful renunciation, but they are lacking this bodhicitta, they will never come to attain the Buddha. So from that point of view, it's really that important to attain the Buddhahood, to have the bodhicitta. So once we understand that, then we may think that, oh, then this bodhicitta may appear to be kind of very, very important thing, very, very important kind of a value or very, very important mentality. So how to cultivate it, how to kind of achieve it, how to have it kind of arising in oneself, then comes into the picture the instructions. The next, swept up in the current of four powerful rivers, tied by strong bonds of karma, so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the darkness of ignorance. And these two goes together. Born and reborn in boundless cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the three miseries, thinking of your mothers in this condition, generate the supreme bodhicitta. So, when we think about our own discomfort, problems, pain and agony, that should lead us to cultivate or generate the renunciation. When we apply the similar contemplation on other beings, the beings surrounding us, they are suffering, they are in pain, they are in trouble. So how should I help them? Driven by that kind of contemplation, then if we generate a real, genuine sense of willingness to help them, and driven by that, I have no other choice. I have to attain the Buddhahood. Unless I attain the Buddha's great qualities and great attainments, I will never be able to help all these beings. With that kind of, thinking, we cultivate, we manage to have this wish to attain the Buddhahood, cultivated within ourselves, then we have this bodhicitta. So, bodhicitta can only be possible if we have great compassion. If we don't have a compassion to others, there is no way that bodhicitta can be cultivated. If we have no sense of caring to others, there is no way that we can be a bodhisattva and then cultivate the bodhicitta. So that is the reason why all these lines are explained here. So now, after cultivating the bodhicitta, after having the bodhicitta arise, what happens? There is another important point that comes into the picture. The number 9. Nilu tobe share midi le nyejun changju sin khomje ge sibe zaw jeber minu de de tende tobe thamlabe. Khangshi khonde chunam thamje gi gyunde nam ya luwa me thongshi mi be tefu khang gu jiba theni sangye gi be namla chu. Nawa tende luwa me bada tongba khelen chebe ko ani chisi sodop nawa tesu thadung tube ko tok ba. Namshi renjo me ba chichar tende milu thongwa sam yin ngeshi yu gi zindang kunjing na tese tawe chebe tok ba. Shiya nawe yo se wa tongbe me sin tongba ni gyudan jebu chebe sushi na thansi tawe chok ba mi gyu. Like this. So these verses explains the importance of the wisdom of emptiness and how to cultivate it. So we go here, verse number 9. Although you train in renunciation and mind of bodhicitta without wisdom that realizes the ultimate reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic existence. Therefore, strive to understand dependent arising. This explains the importance of the wisdom of emptiness. If we don't have the wisdom of emptiness, what happens? What we lack? So, if we don't have the wisdom of emptiness, we will never be able to cut the roots of the negative emotions, the afflictions, like greed, hatred, anger, lustful desire, and all the other kind of these negative afflictions, jealousy, and all these different varieties of emotions, negative emotions. Now, if we are not able to cut the root of these kind of negative emotion, then what happens? We will be always kind of disturbed by these things. So too, there is no other way around. To achieve the peace in our own self, to achieve happiness, a lasting happiness, we have to get rid of these things, negative emotions and the afflictions. And that can only be done or achieved through the wisdom of emptiness. Because when we have the wisdom of emptiness, then it not immediately kind of cut, gradually it reduces the intense negative emotions, and gradually it will be pacified, and at the end it will be completely uprooted. So that is how it works. So this is the importance of the wisdom of emptiness. And further it explains us how to cultivate it. One who sees the infallible cause and effect of all phenomena in samsara and nirvana and destroys all focuses of apprehension has entered the path which pleases the Buddha. Also, this explains us how to cultivate the wisdom of emptiness. An important factor here is the term emptiness is always misunderstood by many people. Term emptiness doesn't mean it is a kind of an empty bottle or empty house or something like that. The term emptiness here stands for empty of some kind of nature, which is a fabricated nature. Absence of a fabricated nature on these phenomena. So, as long as we don't understand the absence of this fabricated nature, we take this fabricated nature is the real nature. When that happens, that causes to produce all these afflictions. So we say that things we take it as things exist by intrinsic nature. Things exist by absolute essence. But in reality, nothing has the absolute kind of essence. But in reality, nothing exists by the kind of intrinsic nature. It is us who are constantly kind of producing the identity and labeling. Through the labeling, things exist. Just for an example, the concept of beauty. We use this word very often in our life. But what is the meaning of beauty? Is there a universal beauty? Of course, it's very difficult to find it. So, it's a label that we produce, and then that we put on other things, and then we accept it. So it's a labeling process where entire universe is kind of run by a labeling process, run by a naming convention. So, but the moment we see other things, it appears to us like it is this, identity, or this, identification is something intrinsically within that subject object. But in reality, there is nothing like that. So that means the absence of the fabricated nature. For an example, a very practical example. A young, late teenager, girlfriend and boyfriend, they may appear like this is the most attractive guy in the world. This is the most attractive girl in the world. But the moment they break up, And they look at each other. For them, it appears like this is the worst man in the world, that is the most woman in the world. But where does that beauty disappear? If it is intrinsic and it is a kind of absolute essence, it is all functioning on the convention. Nothing more than that. There is no kind of intrinsically existing beauty or kind of ugliness. It is all dependent on our own conceptual thinking. So we need to understand it. So it further goes that appearances are infallible, dependent arising. Emptiness is the understanding that is free of assertions. As long as these two are seen as distinct, you have not yet realized the intent of the Buddha. When these two realizations are concurrent, where the mere sight of infallible dependent origination concurrently destroys all modes of grasping through definite discernment, at that time the analysis of the profound view is perfect. Furthermore, appearances refute the extreme of existence, emptiness refutes the extreme of non-existence. When you understand that emptiness arises in the form of cause and effect, you are not captivated by the view of extremes. So, the view of extreme is either taking nothing is existing, or if something exists, have to exist by its intrinsic nature, by its absolute essence. So these are the views of extremes. So when we understand emptiness, we completely, stay away from extreme of nihilism or extreme of existence. So we can maintain the middle path and middle way approach. So then, last paragraph says, O my child, once you have thus realized the points of the three principal paths, seek solitude and cultivate strong determination, and quickly reach the final goal. So once we have understood these things, then we have to train ourselves well. First step towards training is knowing. Without the knowledge, there is no way that you can train. After knowing it, we need to apply. Even if we know hundreds and thousands of things, but if we never apply any single thing in our life, we will never achieve anything. So this is a kind of a very short a teaching on the three principal aspects of the path. And I would like to stop here because we already have jumped a little more. 3 minutes are over, and unfortunately because of the time I cannot take questions, though I will be more than happy to take it. We do hope that we will have another kind of occasion to take the questions, okay? So now after this we will do the dedication part here. Okay, we do the dedication of this page number. This page number is what? Oh, page number 251. 251. Okay. Okay. Om Swasti. To the assembly of most kind teacher, both present and past, the miraculous dance of the body, speech, and mind of innumerable Buddhas manifesting in accord with the aspirant's spiritual capacity. The wish-granting jewel, the source of all virtue and goodness, to you we offer our prayers with fervent devotion. That Tenzin Gyatso, protector of land of snows, live for 100 eons, shower on him your blessings so that his aspirations are fulfilled without hindrance. To the assembly of all meditational deities manifesting as countless mandalas and divinities, the magical cloud of immaculate transcendent wisdom reaching to the farthest expanse of space of ultimate reality, To you we offer prayers with fervent devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snows, live for 100 eons. Shower on him your blessings so that his aspirations are fulfilled without hindrance. To all the victorious Buddhas of the three times, endowed with 10 powers and who are even masters of the gods, and whose attributes of perfection are the source of all compassionate deeds, benefiting the vast ocean-like realm of sentient beings, to you we offer prayers with fervent devotion, that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snow, live for 100 eons. Shower on him your blessings so that his aspirations are fulfilled without hindrance. To the assembly of sacred doctrine, Triviku, supreme serene, the jewel treasure of enlightenment, stainless, unchanging, eternally good, and glory of all virtues, which actually liberates beings from the sufferings of the three worlds. To you we offer prayers with fervent devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snows, live for 100 eons. Shower on him your blessings so that his aspirations are fulfilled without hindrance. To all members of the enlightened noble spiritual community who never stay delusion intensity, to possess a wisdom eye that directly sees the profound truth and the highest valor to destroy all machinations of the cyclic existence. To you we offer prayers with fervent devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snows, live for 100 eons. Shower on him your blessings so that his aspirations are fulfilled without hindrance. To the assembly of heroes and daganis, heavenly beings of the three worlds, who appear in the highest paradises, in the sacred places, and in the cremation grounds, and who, through care and full experience of bliss and emptiness, support practitioners in their meditation on the excellent path. To you we offer prayers with fervent devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snow, live for 100 eons. Shower on him your blessings so that his aspirations are fulfilled without hindrance. To the ocean of protectors endowed with eyes of the transcendent wisdom, the powerful guardians and upholders of the teaching who wear inseparably their metal, the knot symbolizing their pledge to the Vajra holder, to you we offer prayers with fervent devotion that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snows, live for 100 eons. Shower on him your blessings so that his aspirations are fulfilled without hindrances. Thus, to this congregation of excellent, undeceiving refuge, we pray that by the power of this prayer expressed from the heart filled with fervent devotion and immunity, may the body, speech, and mind of the soul of the land of snow, the supreme Nam Lok Sam Tenzin Gyatso, be indestructible, unfluctuating, and unceasing. May he live for 100 eons, seated on diamond throne, transcending decay and destruction. You are the jewel heart embodying all compassionate, beneficial deeds. O most courageous one, you carry on your shoulders the burden of all the Buddhas of the infinite realm. May all your noble aspirations be fulfilled as intended. By virtue of this, may the heavenly doors of the fortunate open eternally as source of relief and respite for all beings, and may the auspicious signs reach the aspects of existence and relief. As the sacred teachings flourish through all times and in all realms, may the nectar streams of blessings of the lotus holder always enter our hearts and nourish them with strength. May we please you with offerings of dedicated prayers, and may we reach beyond the shores of effort. Through the blessings of the wondrous Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, by the infallible truth of the law of independent origination, may the aims of my prayer be fulfilled without hindrances. Now we go to the page number 274. Okay? 274. From my two collections, vast a space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for the great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom, eyes blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving kindness of all Manjushri. May I find the best of the complete, graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my trade. Using skillful means, drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the mind of all beings, with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time, with the heart going out with great compassion. In whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, May I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. And by this graded path, enlightenment traversed completely, due to the wondrous virtues conducted for the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings who and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent path never be separated in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddha. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Okay. Now, yeah. Where is that? Okay. Additional dedication. We read this additional dedication. Okay, we go to the 280. Okay, we jump this 280. I read from the line number 3. Okay, the path of the union of emptiness and compassion is lucidly explained by the protector of both the Dharma and the beings of the snowland. You are the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso, we supplicate you that your wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds of the negative forces of humans and non-humans who are harboring malice through prayers against the teachings of the Buddha be totally vanquished through the power of truth of the three jewels. In all my life, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the stages on the path, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by Arya Manjushri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and teachings on dependent origination in particular, even the course of my life. Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you very much.